Hi everyone. Welcome to the second webinar in our series of three, all about marketplaces from Incubeta, and yes, how it is that you can make the most of marketplaces, improve your position, and generally increase your omni-channel strategy. In this one, we're going to be looking at primarily content and really understanding what good looks like on Amazon in particular. So if we can move to the next one. Hopefully by the end of this session, you'll know all the key components that you have access to, which will help make your brand successful on Amazon. Really understand the importance of having a holistic content strategy, which is really reflective of the user journey and the user experience within the store. And also try and replicate the sort of promotional activity that we're going to take you through, because that is absolutely critical to your success in a marketplace like Amazon. So just a quick reminder, the relationship on Amazon. So as we said before, there are really three types of relationship. There's being a seller, which is essentially using Amazon's platform to sell direct to the consumer. And then using two different forms of fulfillment, either via merchant, i.e. yourself, using your own your logistics partner, or using FBA, which is fulfilled by Amazon. And that is where you take full advantage of Amazon's logistics horsepower, which is pretty phenomenal. Second is you can be a vendor, but as a vendor, you are in a business-to-business relationship with Amazon, and that is an invite-only relationship. So you have to be invited by Amazon to get into that type of relationship. Our recommendation is it can be good. It can also not be so good. So it's really a question of your portfolio, the size of your business, what the investment potential is. And then the third one is, as there already are many resellers on Amazon, it's an open marketplace. So if as a brand you have multiple distribution partners, then it could be that those distribution partners are also reselling on Amazon. And if that is the case, you can sign up as a brand, protect yourself through something called Brand Registry, and allow your resellers and distributors to sell your products on Amazon, but with the control over your content, and also you can also offer to do the advertising promotion for your partners as well. So they're the three types of relationship. So just looking at Brand Registry in a little more detail, this is a really critical part and quite an important development over the last couple of years from Amazon, which really gives you the ability to properly protect and give guidance to how your brand should and would want to be represented on a marketplace like Amazon. So it's like being represented as a concession within a department store in sort of the physical world. And this part of the process is important for any brand selling on Amazon, regardless of the relationship you have. If you have a trademark and you're a registered IP, then it's really important that you go through this process. It's pretty straightforward, and it's broadly free. It's just time to make sure it's done properly. The reason why it's important as well is because it gives you great protection over infringements from unwanted third-party sellers. It gives you protection in terms of how you would wish your content and your brand imagery and videos and so forth, how you would want them to appear. So that's really important, because there are many cases of brands and products and so forth being misrepresented and content being inaccurate, which can be very damaging, because that will in turn drive bad reviews, bad ratings, and then you're really sort of cutting yourself off at the knees to do well. Then lastly, as a registered brand, you also open up access to more tools that Amazon make available to those who are brand registered. So you can have additional content known as A+ content. You can get access to brand stores, which is like your own mini website within Amazon. And then there is greater usability and access to other advertising formats, which again is super important when driving exposure and ultimately conversions within the marketplace. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Rick. So look, we're going to take you through the next stage, taking you through how we built out Brewdog's concession on Amazon and help them to succeed within the marketplace. And we'll take you through that process. But just to give you sort of a bit of background to it, resellers were listing their products in the marketplace, but they were using poor content with no visual stimulus to engage consumers or to be aligned to the Amazon algorithm. So the content was poor. There were sales there. We knew from insight and analytics that there was high brand awareness because of the search terms, but there was poor brand representation. However, there were sales. So we knew there was an opportunity. So Brewdog chose to work with us, and we took them through a process to onboard them to Amazon and to help them succeed over the next 12 months. That process that we went through was to, first of all, using data and analytics to understand which products would sell in the marketplace based around the promotional calendar. So we did a whole piece around product selection. We also know through eye tracking surveys that we've done how consumers navigate the categories and how they consume content. And on the right-hand side is a visual representation of how a consumer visualizes content within a product detail page. So you can see where the heat map is on the left-hand side, where the images are next to the product shot, how consumers are visually looking for good buying decisions. You can also see on the right-hand side how consumers at the top look at the titles for good information, and then they follow the page down to look at the bullet points to be able to give themselves information to make the right choices. So we created, based on this information on how we know that consumers navigate the categories and the product detail pages and the rest of the ecosystem, we then created a clear content strategy around that. And that included, if you bear with me a second, building out their product detail pages. So we understand that that you have to align content not only to the consumer, but also to the Amazon algorithms. And you're given an ecosystem within Amazon, and that includes above the fold content, which is your product detail page, which is in front of you now, and below the fold content, which is your A+ on brand stores that I'll come on to in a bit. But we created a clear content strategy across the whole ecosystem, including their images on the left-hand side, including their titles at the top on the right-hand side, and including the bullet points. So when it comes to images, you first of all, Amazon enable you to use seven images and a video. And in those images, you want to create your brand story. So for Brewdog, it was about, and this is the same for every client, you have to have a clear image of the product. And on the second image, we then had an image of the product in its casing. And then from there, you can become more creative. And this is when you need to get your brand story and your content strategy in place. So for example, you want to showcase the product in lifestyle situations. You want to showcase awards that you have won. You want to use infographics around ingredients. And also you want to use video, showcasing the product. And we recommend that you use video between up to 15 seconds. All of this is enabling the consumer to choose your product versus the competition, because it's a competitive market and it's all about marginal gains. And then looking at the titles on the right-hand side, in the titles, you need to align the titles. One, you need to make them mobile friendly. Secondly, you need to align them to the consumer, but also to the algorithms, looking at through SEO, looking at search term analytics. So you want to tell the consumer who your brand is. So we did this with Brewdog. So it sounds obvious, but you're telling the consumer this is a Brewdog product. You tell them what the product is, what it does, and who's it for. And you need to get that across very clearly. And then you need to follow that content strategy down. So in the bullet points, if I can just go back very, very quickly to the original slide, you would see that in the bullet points, originally from resellers, they were really bland and they weren't really selling the product at all. So what we did is we created a clear narrative around this. So first of all, you're given 5 bullet points to work within. So we tell the consumers for Brewdog, what's the flavor of the product? You know, what's the flavor of the product? It's an IPA, it's a light ale. Then we told them what the product was, then what the flavor was. Then we went into use the space to tell the consumer around Brewdog's sustainability messaging and how they want to become carbon neutral, because it's important for consumers. So we're getting that heritage of the brand and the history of brand in there. And then we also use the bullet points to talk more about the wider offering and getting more detail in there to make consumers, for Brewdog to be able to compete against the competition. So again, it's about maximizing your opportunity in that space and using all the tools at your disposal to do that. And we license technology that enable us to be able to see which keywords are trending in the market at the time. And we change the content around the promotional calendar, which Rupert will come on to in a bit. Then following on with that, with the content strategy, the consumers, when they come through the categories, they look at the product detail pages, which we went on to. And not only do they do that, but they want to review. Amazon is driven by reviews. Consumers are always looking for validation about what they should buy by other consumers, and reviews sit below the fold. So another tool at your disposal is this tool here called A+, A+ content, which sits below the fold, and this is only open to brands that have registered their brand. So within this unit here, you want to continue your brand's your content strategy. And that means leading with the brand. And there's a new unit which has just been added, which sits above this, where you can talk about your brand story. So we always recommend you lead with your brand. There's an opportunity in here to then also be very image heavy. So you want to have lots of good, clear product shots. You want to have lifestyle shots within here as well, and also key features. And it's a great place to use to be able to show consumers your other products. So we always use the comparison chart at the bottom, where you're giving consumers a more in-depth view of your product range. And so at the bottom in the comparison charts, they're all clickable that go back to the product detail pages. So it's just another area where you want to continue that content strategy around what is your product, who's it for, and giving them more information and being creative in the space. There was a survey was done by Accenture about 1.5 years ago, where they interviewed 300 people who had bought a named product from Amazon, and 81% of those people remembered the product detail pages and the A+. And only 28% of those people could remember the TV ad 2 months later. Now, we're not telling people that they need to, that TV is less impactful than your product detail page or your A+ within Amazon. But what we're saying is creativity needs to be at the heart of your strategy. And that also continues onto your brand stores. Brand stores were relaunched back in around 2018. And it's again, it's another tool that you can use if you're registered. It's like a light version of your website. We encourage brands to be creative in the space. Video is a key component of the brand store. You can also create channels based around categories and products. We encourage brands to have more content in there about the breadth of your brand and their brand. It's a key component on identifying new to brand customers that come in from the sponsored brand ad unit, which we talked about in another webinar. It's a great area where you can track where consumers are coming in from because you can implement source tags. But what's key as well is it needs to be updated on a regular basis. And that's the key across all of these areas, is that you need to align it to the promotional calendar. But again, brand stores is something that is becoming a key part of driving success in a very competitive marketplace. And over to you, Rupert.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah. So look, a lot of detail on content. Content is, is clearly a very important part of any sort of shopper marketing, whether that be in the physical space or in the virtual space. And in some regards, in the virtual space, it's even more important because you're trying to replicate that experience that people might have walking into a store. So you want to give as much information as possible. Of course, none of the content really comes to its fore unless you are linking it to key promotional activity through the year. And in the case of Brewdog, there are clearly some periods in the year when people drinking beer or buying spirits or whatever it is more important or more prevalent than at other times of the year, as well as there being key Amazon shopper events. So Brewdog aside, every single category, every single product category will have some promotional activity where they need to kind of focus on building out different content and different approaches to their marketing online. In the case of Amazon as well, you've got key periods like Cyber Monday, Black Friday, Prime Day, all these times when really you need to be coming up with a different promotional concept and a different sort of content strategy because the traffic on Amazon in particular will be increasing massively during those periods. So that's why we did this. And just to kind of finish up really on Brewdog in particular, this is where new product development and ideas for the actual
I'll take over, Rupert. So this is going back to the original story, is Brewdog had a market share of about 0.2% at the beginning through resellers. But through new product development and aligning to the promotional calendar and having that insight and analytics and being creative, we managed to help them to create products for around that calendar. And this is just an example of a calendar, an advent calendar that they took to market in December of last year. And it drove just under £300,000 worth of sales, just over under 7,500 units. And it took their market share from around I believe it was 0.2% to around 10% over that year. So it's about thinking, using data and insight, being creative in the space, understanding the promotional calendar, changing creative to align to consumers around that, to then drive success within a competitive marketplace. But thanks very much for your time.